Welcome to the Super Mario Odyssey Trickjump guide. Every guide will be short, simple and straight to the point, with mainly one aspect of trickjumping as the focus. To keep things simpler though, this part will include a lot, but I would still recommend watching everything, because every section contains crucial information. First, I will quickly give you insight about which controllers you should use for trickjumping. Then, we will transition over to explaining cap throws, dives and spins, followed up by cap bounces, and finally, I will explain the basics of vaults and triple jumps. Take your time to learn every kind of movement, and if you forget something, just skip back and rewatch a section. Learning to trickjump is hard, so take your time and don't give up. With that out of the way, let's get right into it, shall we? Chapter 1 Controller Selection. Fuck! So what should I use? Joy-Cons or Pro Controller? Steve, what do you think?
Well, the answer to this question is actually surprisingly simple. Luckily, it doesn't matter.
Well, thank you, Steve. Anyways, even up to the top players, the amount of Joy-Con versus Pro-Con players is about 50-50. If you are playing with Pro-Con, you will need a pair of Joy-Cons at a higher level of trick jumping to be able to do a certain setup, which we will talk about in another part. Don't worry though, after having executed that setup, you can just switch back to your Pro-Con immediately. If you are using Joy-Cons, I would recommend starting to get used to playing detached from the grip, if you haven't already done so before. Chapter 2 Cap throws, dives and spins. First off, make your way over to a big platform, like the Mech Arena in Bowser's, so you have a lot of space to practice. Cap throws are performed by pressing Y or X, but I would strongly recommend using Y to cap throw and B for jumping in general, if you haven't been doing so before. There's also other types of cap throws, some of which we will need later. You can perform up throws by shaking your Pro-Con or both Joy-Cons upwards, spin throws, which are executed by spinning your Pro-Con or Joy-Con in a fast fashion, and finally down throws, which only work on Joy-Cons and can be executed by shaking them both downwards. There are also so-called MCCTs, which stands for Motion Controlled Cap Throw, and they can be executed by shaking downwards on Pro-Con or shaking a single Joy-Con into any direction. MCCTs look and are almost the same as regular cap throws, but because they are not as consistent to execute, please don't even think about using them instead of normal cap throws. For all types of cap throws, excluding spin throws, you can hold Cappy out to a limit of about 3 seconds by holding Y. If that was too much information at once, don't worry. Like said before, you can always skip back later and rewatch if you don't remember something. Next up are dives. They are performed by pressing ZL or ZR, whatever you prefer, while being airborne, which requires a ground pound. Then just press Y to dive before starting to fall downwards. You can technically also shake again instead, but please just simply use Y instead of its janky motion control variant. Finally, we have spins, also sometimes called twirls or rainbow spins. After throwing Cappy, he will return after some time. If Mario is in the air and you press B shortly after Cappy returns, Mario will execute a spin. The spin makes Mario float in the air for around a second, which can save us a lot of distance if used properly. Chapter 3 Cap bounces. A cap bounce, in short CB, can be performed by doing a cap throw, then diving immediately but keeping Cappy held out. You see, Cappy won't return for a while after he's been thrown, even if you do let go of Y. So if you throw out Cappy without further holding Y, then you can dive and keep holding Y after, and Cappy will keep staying outside because he hasn't had the chance to come back yet and you're already holding Y again. If Cappy did return, make sure to start a dive faster, and if you're diving through Cappy, make sure that you're holding Y after the dive, until you've done the cap bounce and only then you release. Alternatively, you can use Y for the cap throw and hold it, then just use X as the dive input, but don't stop holding Y until you bounce. After you've become consistent at it, try the same but while running forwards or into any direction. Don't worry if it takes a while to master, that's part of the process. As the last step, try spinning after Cappy returns from the bounce, then cap throw and do a final dive to get maximum distance. If you have done so successfully, congratulations! You will now be able to do all beginner jumps. Wait, what was your question? Oh, what this jump is? Oh, that's just Dark Side Impossible, which requires a vault. Yes, there is more. Chapter 4. Triple Jumps. A triple jump, sometimes just called triple and abbreviated as TJ, can be performed by jumping in a straight or curved line 3 times consecutively. You can shorten the total distance it takes up by only starting to move shortly before the double jump or holding the jump button for less time on the single and the double jump if the situation requires it. For triple jumps, where you need a lot of distance, you can build up more speed by starting a roll and then chaining a triple into it. A roll itself is performed by executing a ground pound and pressing Y when hitting the ground, while still holding ZL or ZR. Then you can simply chain the cap bounce movement you learned before and skip a massive leap. You can get even more distance through so-called vectoring. So instead of having a straight angle towards the landing platform, start off the roll facing 45 degrees to the left or right of the landing platform, then when you triple jump, start holding into the direction of it. In a future tutorial I will go more into detail about vectoring mechanics, but for now this is as much as you need to know. Now finally, let's get to the last tech of this video. Chapter 5. Vaults. They are performed by doing a cap throw and holding cappy out, then quickly doing a roll by using X for rolling this time, because Y is already being held. Finally, hold the stick forwards when rolling into cappy, to vault forwards and not stand still on the spot. If cappy came back again, you didn't hold X nor Y after starting the roll. Again, you can chain it with the cap bounce movement from before to skip a massive leap, and you can also implement the vectoring technique mentioned earlier. There's more advanced tech for vaults and triples, but we will tackle those in another episode, because for now you have all the information you will need to complete all beginner and most intermediate trick jumps, so good luck and don't get discouraged, you got this. If you don't know where you can find those jumps, watch a previous episode of the Trick Jump Guide. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or in the Discord servers, where the community will happily help you out. More guides are to come, so if you don't want to miss out on those, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next guide.